Weather system number two moving into the northeast this evening, producing severe weather tonight in parts of Ohio and western Pennsylvania. And we've also got a little bit of wintertime hanging on up in the northern Rockies. And of course, that represents the next storm system that'll be coming in for gloom and doom for the end of the week on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. We're not gloom and doom, but the weather is going to be uh, as we get into the weekend. Did you struggle today with clouds most of the day, or did you break out? I saw parts of southern New Jersey broke out there and into Pennsylvania, but I also saw clouds in southern New England and Long Island just hanging around for most of the day. So I guess
We had
it wasn't picture perfect.
we had what I call sunny pokes, not 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 to be confused with Sunny Fox,
Right.
the former host of Wonderama, but sunny pokes. Every once in a while, oh, there's the sun. No, no, oh, it went away.
No.
It was that
Yeah.
kind of a day today.
Yeah.
So
So, what are your thoughts on how the Friday through Sunday scenario plays? Because uh, I'm not, I'm still kind of wavering a little bit about whether we're going to see improvement on Sunday. It's always tricky when you've got a low sitting out in the ocean to your south and an east wind. It's going to depend on whether some dry air makes it down from the north, but I can make a case for both ways where we just sit in gloom and doom all day Sunday. In the meantime, doesn't look like we're going to get a lot of rain as you go north. It'll rain heavier as you go south down in southern New Jersey, southern Pennsylvania, and point south. But that northern edge is going to have a fairly sharp cutoff, I think.
well, as far as Mother's Day is concerned, for all the moms out there, I decided I would go, yeah, a blend or mix of cloud and maybe if I were up in Canada, the Environment Canada way of stating the forecast, cloudy with a few sunny periods,
Mm-hmm.
or if you will, sunny with a few cloudy periods. I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm playing it optimistic. Saturday most definitely looks to me like it will be the cloudier of the two weekend days, and also the wetter of the two weekend days as well. The wetness arriving probably later in the day on Friday and carrying over through Friday night and on into the start of your Mother's Day weekend. And then hopefully some improvement, not a whole heck of a lot of improvement, but some improvement for Sunday. Joe, as far as I'm concerned, the pick of the week by far looks to be Thursday. Thursday
Right.
looks like to be a gloriously sunny day, mainly sunny, and temperatures probably peaking somewhere, at least here in the Hudson Valley, between 69 and 74 degrees. So
Yeah.
savor it, enjoy it. Our one nice day as compared to a number of not so nice days to come.
Right. And to put it in perspective, for Sunday, it looks to me like if it's gonna if the better chance of any kind of brightening or sun breaking through the clouds will be probably north and east of New York City, as opposed to say south and southwest of Philadelphia or southeast and southeast of Philadelphia, because the cloud line's going to sink southward, and how far it gets, we don't know. And the other thing is, it's a little early to see cutoffs that go off the East Coast actually drift southwestward. I saw on the latest GFS run that it actually takes the cutoff into the Gulf of Mexico, which, if we were in late June or in June, we might even start thinking about whether when it got there we could get something tropical out of it. But I think it's way too early for that. But still, it's a little odd to see the whole feature like that just hold together and drop down into the southwest of the Gulf. And it does leave much of next week. I think it's going to be a tricky forecast next week for a few of the days because of the high to the northeast and the just about the whole week we're going to be in an onshore flow. So what if some little system, some little trough comes swinging back westward as the upper low is dropping southward and starts to swing in some low clouds and some light rain or drizzle? I don't think you could rule it out. I just don't know what days at this point that something like that would happen.
Yeah, just blocky, blocky, blocky. And one thing that, and I'll show it in a few moments, the Climate Prediction Center is still insisting is that next week is going to be, for the most part, a dry, if not very dry week.
Mm-hmm.
And in part due to the blocky setup that's going to be taking place during next week. And it is kind of crazy that you see a system, progress across the United States, get to the mid Atlantic coast, move off the coast, then does a little bit of a dozy do or spiral, and then again heads in a southwest trajectory. It is a very odd, a very strange pattern that we are looking at for the next week or 10 days, Joe.
Yeah, I don't have too much. I don't have too much of an issue with the idea that it could be mainly dry all week, but that doesn't say it can't be cloudy, and that doesn't say that we can't get patches of light rain or drizzle that produce people, zero point zero 0.01 inches of rain, because technically over the course of a week, a couple of hundredths of rain would be considered dry. So it's a little, I don't know what's the word. It's a little, I don't know if it's the word confusing is the right word, but
I'm
it's rather unsettled in my mind.
I'm looking at as you just did a few moments ago. Now I'm looking at it right now at the 18Z GFS, and like just like with the 12Z GFS, you look at the 10th of May, which will be next Tuesday, and what do I see on this map? I see not one, not two. I see a six contour cutoff low
Yeah,
about 350 miles east southeast of Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, on the 10th day of May. And at the same time that that's happening, at the same time that that's occurring, I'm looking at this monstrous ridge of high pressure, which extends from southern Texas up through the Ohio Valley and up into Ontario and Quebec, Canada. And there are signs, there are indications, Joe, that dare I say that, for places like in the Great Lakes or maybe into portions of the Midwest, that might be seeing temperatures somewhere at or above 90 for a while next week,
not
because again of
impossible.
that big huge dome of, not even a dome. It's not a dome. It looks like a gigantic salami, if you will, of
It's
high pressure.
it
This
basically
huge
it,
ridge which extends.
it's basically
It's
an arm.
crazy,
It's an arm that just sort of wraps up and around the upper low and just cradles it. And the upper low drops
right?
southward, and the ridge comes over the top. Yeah, it happens sometimes, but you don't. It's not something you see very often. But it does make for yeah, it's going to make for an interesting week next week. In that, like you said, it could get very warm uh, inside that ridge position. It's so close, and yet the upper low and the onshore flow here along the East Coast is just going to keep. It's just going to make things. I'm not going to say necessarily miserable, but um, it does make for a challenging forecast. Here's the here's a satellite loop tonight. I don't know why my framing is messed up tonight for some reason. All right, maybe I'll fix it this way. Let's see if I can do that. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Just give me a moment here and stretch this down. So I want to make sure that everything's in view. And it is. So there you have it. Now we've got some showers. There are showers and thunderstorms. You can see some of the brighter white cloud tops moving across Ohio and into western Pennsylvania. And that's with this next weather system that's coming eastward. Um, I thought for tonight and tomorrow. I mean, there'll probably be some patches of showery rains here and there. I'm not thinking that there's going to be any kind of widespread stuff. And in the meantime, out in the Rockies, you see the twisting there. That is the upper low that is diving southeastward and then about to turn eastward as we go through the next couple of days, and that's going to be our weather maker for Saturday. Not too bad a day today here in the southeast. We've got some thunderstorm development going on just inland of the Carolinas. Looks like some kind of sea breeze front going on over there. And also in parts of South Florida, seeing a blow up of clouds. And we've got moisture coming out of the Pacific that is streaming up into Texas with a little bit of severe weather indicated there. I'll pull up the radar. Why don't we just take a look? So here's what's going on at the moment in the U.S. and the Northeast. And there's a radar refresh for you. And I want to take a look at this. It's a nice looking little line of storms that has formed down. And look at that, Joe. There's like a nice little snaking line of thunderstorms there in southeast Virginia and moving through eastern North and South Carolina and southern Georgia. Just kind of stands out there well ahead of where the low is. And there's a squall line right now. Looks like it's getting ready to approach Columbus, Ohio. A couple of severe thunderstorm warnings in and around Cleveland. And we've got a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings that popped up in southwest West Pennsylvania. At least as of right now, which is at 8:11 Eastern Time, there's nothing going on rain-wise close by.
Right. In fact, the Mets are playing as of this moment. They're playing the second game of a doubleheader at Citi Field under basically dry conditions. If the game were to be one of those where it goes into extra innings and it lasts after midnight, which I'm sure the players and everybody hopes it's not, then we have to come into the possibility that there could be some rain because where that round of moisture is over central Pennsylvania, you use the infamous Alan Casper Pittsburgh rule. That looks like it could be about 4 hours away. So after midnight tonight is when we're probably going to get a little wet in and around the immediate tri state area.
Yeah, that squall line, by the way, in Ohio is moving into an area where there is a tornado watch in central and eastern Ohio, northwestern West Virginia, and southwestern Pennsylvania. We also have flash flood watches up tonight in southwest Missouri, southeast Kansas, northeast Arkansas, and a good chunk of the state of Oklahoma and a few counties up in north central Texas. Nothing with respect to the weather that's going on in the Rockies, nothing there is impressive enough to set off any kind of warnings or watches. We've got two counties in southern Wyoming, probably where elevations favored a little bit, where we've got winter weather advisories, and what seems to be the endless red flag warnings up in New Mexico, southern Colorado, and in northeastern Arizona because of the very dry conditions there today. And by the way, I wanted to take a look at Hawaii, which we don't do too often. But I did notice this today, Mr. Rayo, that the Big Island has a winter weather advisory. In fact, two spots are being highlighted here in this winter
Really?
weather advisory. Yes, so let's take a look at,
I remember they had a blizzard on Mauna Kea on the
yeah.
Big Island in December, but that makes sense. It's December. But are you telling me that in the month of May
Now we've seen.
they're having winter weather?
I think we've seen it a few times over the past several years. Something going on in the month of May. So what do they have here? Not for much though. Winter weather advisory until 6 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time this evening for what? Question mark. Snow. Additional snow accumulations of up to 2 inches because they've been snowing there pretty much all day or all night into today, adjusting for the time considerations. This was issued, by the way, at 3:22 a.m. Honolulu Standard Time this Tuesday, and it's in effect until 6 p.m. this evening, Honolulu Standard Time. Dangerously slick roadways and visibilities near zero, with the road to the summit of Mauna Kea
Mm-hmm.
closed.
Yeah.
They've
Oh,
closed the road to Mauna Kea. And
okay.
they also have various high surf advisories that are up, along with small craft advisories in effect. So not exactly an ideal day. And we've got the Hawaii radar, so we might as well take a look and see what's going on there. Our friends out on.
Hawaii is 6 hours. Hawaii is 6 hours behind us. So right now in Honolulu, it is 2:14 p.m. It's the middle of the afternoon out there.
Yeah,
So
a lot of precip over the Big Island at the moment, and in the neighboring islands to the west. Honolulu is not doing much of anything at the moment, but it all seems to be confined to the Big Island and the islands that follow. So uh, that's just kind of interesting to see that going on. Storm Prediction Center has a slight risk there in northeastern Kentucky. Excuse me. That part of it is playing through, but we do have that tornado watch, as we said, continuing for parts of southeast Ohio and into West Virginia and southwestern Pennsylvania for the next several hours. Marginal risk in southeast Virginia into northeastern North Carolina. Couple of three small areas of marginal risk and a very tiny area of slight risk around Del Rio, Texas, by the way. And we are just seeing general thunderstorms, no other risk being indicated. However, the Storm Prediction Center for tomorrow has an enhanced risk again for Oklahoma, much of Oklahoma, except the north and the eastern part of the states. They're in a slight risk in that area, and that enhanced risk extends into parts of north central and northwest Texas. Also, a marginal risk tomorrow, the southern tip of the Delmarva Peninsula, southeast Virginia, much of eastern North Carolina, and also a good chunk of South Carolina in a marginal risk. On day three, and this takes us now to our storm that is moving eastward toward the east coast. It is going to produce severe weather Thursday into Friday, and we have Thursday morning into Friday morning, and we already have an enhanced risk from northeast Texas and northern Louisiana northward, covering just about all of Arkansas, southern Missouri, and the extreme western Tennessee and northwestern Mississippi, with that larger area of slight risk and the even larger area of marginal risk pushing up into central Illinois and southern Iowa. So that's the story for that. And we don't have any severe weather worries with this storm system because it's going to our south, and we're not going to have to deal with that. But we do have in the long range on day 5, I'm sorry, where is it? On day 6, in Kansas, eastern Missouri, eastern Kansas, southeast Nebraska, and eastern Missouri. And then that goes on day 7, it goes a little further north, northeast Kansas, northward into southwest Minnesota, western Iowa, eastern Nebraska, and a small portion of southeastern South Dakota. So the folks at SPC are going to be busy. And here's the rain. And again, it's nothing really to write home about here. This is from tonight through next Tuesday night, and we're seeing they're only giving Joe a quarter to a half an inch of total precip. So, and that includes what happens tonight and tomorrow morning. So, it kind of supports the idea that there's going to be this sort of this northern sharp cutoff to this rain. Now, you get down into southern New Jersey, you go down into um, Maryland, uh, South Central, Southwestern PA, down into West Virginia, Southeastern Virginia. Some of that's going on with thunderstorms tonight, but uh, they're showing about an inch and a half plus, also kind of shading a little bit of coastal Delaware and touching southern New Jersey. So it argues for the fact that the big plus, by the way, is the fact that the storm system for Friday and Saturday, it remains kind of flat. It doesn't really, even in spite of the upper air dynamics, the upper low is not, it is not setting up in a way that's going to allow the surface low to strengthen, which is a good thing. Otherwise, we'd probably have a whole gale and soaking rains all over the place. So that's one positive out of this, is that it's not going to be a crazy storm. When's the next full moon or new moon? I didn't check. Do you know?
Yes. Well, the next full moon is going to be accompanied by a total eclipse. That'll be a week from this Sunday, Sunday night, May 15th. And the next new moon is at the end of the month
All right.
on May 30th.
So we're going into a low tide cycle this weekend with the
Neep. We're going to be
yes.
neeped.
Okay. So that also is a plus because with that easterly fetch, you always have to worry about coastal flooding. So at least from the standpoint of the tide cycle, it's not going to be adding to it. You can see big rains in Oklahoma, into southeast Kansas and parts of Missouri, also up in the Pacific Northwest, the northern Rockies, getting some rain, and then the endlessly dry, forever dry southwestern quarter of the United States, where little or no precipitation is showing up. So why don't you do the Climate Prediction Center stuff, and I can set up the maps for uh, set up the GFS, and we can take a look at that. So if you could do that now,
Yeah,
go
righty.
ahead, and
Let's get the old climate.
I'll put you on the
Let's get the old
screen.
CPC. And we'll go over here, and we'll go over there, and we'll share, and ba-boom, there we are. In fact, let me broaden this up a little bit. I want to first take a look at the CPC's temperature. And this is very interesting. This is more than interesting. This is so, but we're talking about this offshore coastal system next week. And if you see right along the mid-Atlantic coast, I mean, right here in the area around Hatteras, for example, we're actually talking about below normal temperatures, which may actually extend upwards a little bit into a part of southern New Jersey. Right here in this right here in this area, we have below normal temperatures. But you need only go a short distance to the west, and you take a look here, and Joe, this area right here from the Great Lakes down through the Midwest and into parts of the deep South above normal, but more than just above normal. This is, let's see here. There's a one, two, three, four, five, six. So we go over here to the legend one, two, three, four, five, six, an 80 to 90% probability of above normal. This is why I said that a little while ago that if you look at this, this is inferring very strongly that this zone right here will be seeing temperatures well into the 80s, if not even perhaps in a few spots hitting 90 or above. Above normal indeed for the area in the nation's midsection, as opposed to the immediate Atlantic coast, which will be near or below normal all the way down to Florida because of the fact that we have that offshore system and because of the fact that we're getting the onshore winds from the ocean, which will preclude or keep all the heat away to the east. As far as precipitation is concerned, this is interesting. This is why next week, if you're doing anything out of doors, if you're trying to catch up with any of that gardening, this next week looks like the week to do it because it looks like it's going to be below normal all the way from Maine down to the Gulf Coast. And in fact, here in the northeastern part of the country, especially so, below normal conditions. Again, because of the blocky pattern that's going to be shaping up. Meanwhile, the poor folks here in the nation's midsection, especially over the northern plains, will be dealing with above normal precipitation. And this is actually a bit of an improvement for people in the southwestern states. No longer is it, below normal. It'll be near normal. But again, near normal at this time of the year still means that all you're going to see is at best maybe a few drops. We're not going to see, any kind of significant or substantial precipitation. We go to 8 to 14 days out. Now, we're talking about May 11th through the 17th. And that means that we're talking about the period from the middle to latter part of next week into not this weekend, but next weekend. And that seems to be signaling, Joe, a period of above normal. This seems to suggest temperatures in the 80s, at least across the Great Lakes and on into upstate New York. Remember last year, was it last spring that we had, for example, Montreal had like 97 degrees. We were still stuck in the 70s.
Right.
But up north, there was a tremendous high pressure ridge that built up here. And so, places like Caribou and Montreal were well into the 90s. And meanwhile, places further south were a bit cooler. And I'm not saying they're going to be in the upper 90s again this go around, but it looks like once again, upstate New York, central and northern New England may turn out to be, based upon this, warmer than what we will see here in New York and point south down to the mid Atlantic area. And as far as precipitation, well, it looks like we may very well see a continuation of below normal precip, at least up here in our neck of the woods, through at least around the 16th or 17th of May. So we may be going into a long-term trend of drier weather, which we certainly could use, drying out, so to speak. We certainly could use that beginning next week and on beyond that, on into the following weekend. And as you can see out here in the plains, they're stuck. Everything is moving slowly because of the blocking pattern, and they're going to have a continuation of above normal precipitation. And up here we go again. Southwestern states now below normal again, below normal precipitation wise for Utah and parts of Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, and even now across portions of Nevada and California. Again, everything moving slowly and changing slowly because, again, of the blocking pattern that will be still going on for another week or 10 days, it would appear, or maybe even 14 days.
Yeah, depending on how things progress. Take a look at I got the NAO up, which I thought was pretty interesting. We saw this back over the weekend, and again, we've spent, by the way, the to the far left is January 1st. So you can see through January, February, right through the middle of March, we had except for a brief period, probably around the time we had the big snowstorm in mid-January, was when the NAO crashed to the neutral line. But it was positive through the whole winter. And then after the 15th of March, we began a gradual descent where we've spent much of the time since the end of March below a neutral, with the exception of a small period there from April 15th to about maybe April 22nd, and then it's back down one standard deviation below normal, which is where we are now. It's forecast to actually rise to the neutral line, Joe. The mean kind of goes up and down and sort of straddles that neutral line. But again, half the members are above, half the members are below. It just seems like, every time you get into these blocking patterns like this, the models become very unstable, makes forecasting very tough. So it'll be interesting to see if the NAO favors in one direction or another, because that could actually, determine whether we wind up at least partially drying out enough to see some sunshine next week while it's dry, or is the NAO going to be more negative? In which case, you can wind up seeing that low. I guess you could argue that if the NAO is more negative than anything else, the upper low would probably drift further south. It does make for an interesting forecast challenge. And now looking at the Europeans' upper air, it's actually very similar to the GFS today, uh, late this afternoon. This is the upper air system we're talking about. Now, interestingly enough, I'm just going to roll back. Look what's going on in eastern Canada. This feature was supposed to get involved with this upper low, but guess what? Both models, it completely misses the upper low. The GFS has it a little closer where it looks like the upper low to the north might catch it, but then it doesn't. And that leaves the upper low in just kind of no man's land here. There's nothing to turn it northward. It's blocked now so that system swinging out of eastern Canada and heading into east of Newfoundland. So it's just left there in no man's land. And there's Joe's big ridge that he talked about. You see it there, just building like crazy. The strongest height anomalies are up in eastern Canada. So yeah, they're going to get warm. At the very least, they're going to get into the 80s up there, I would think. And the European also wants to take this upper low and again, always talking about following the flow. Well, if we're going to be underneath the power of this upper low, when we're looking at on the screen at the moment, Wednesday, guess where your upper winds are coming from? They're coming from the east. Okay. And that's not what you want to see if you want to get warm, is to have a strong a fairly strong easterly flow going on in the upper layers of the atmosphere. And just like the GFS, with that ridge to the west, deep trough out along in the west coast there into the southwest, coming in. This has the ridge trapped in between, so all your warm air is going up this way. And then the upper low, if it has one place to go, it's to go southwestward, and that's what it does. It takes it into the Gulf of Mexico by the time we get to May 13th, which is the 10th day of the European forecast. And if we look at the GFS tonight on the upper air, it's pretty much doing the same thing. Some subtle differences, perhaps, but it's again the same idea. And I'm rolling this. It's funny when you got a low that's moving southwestward. When you roll the map backwards, it's actually moving in the direction you normally would see it moving, which is to the northeast. But again, here comes that. Watch the system in eastern Canada drop down. It looks like it's going to catch it, and then it temporarily does, and then one goes one way, the other is left behind, and then it just drops south and then southwest. Here we are at day 10, and we have it in the Gulf of Mexico. It's still there, by the way, at day 12, 13 over Florida, and then there's another arm that comes in, and it's still there, by the way, at day 16, Joe, off the southeast coast of the United States. That's crazy.
The Climate Prediction Center, along with their probability maps, they do a discussion for 6 to 10 and 8 to 14 days. On the 6 to 10 day discussion, they're talking about below normal. Well, we saw that big stripe of below normal precipitation along the East Coast, and they said their confidence level in the overall pattern for 6 to 10 days out is 4 out of 5. That's unusually high, and they place the reasoning for that on that, as they call it, an anomalously a huge high pressure system over eastern Canada. And on the 8 to 14 day, you remember yesterday I said that their confidence level was only 2 out of 5. Well, today they raised it one notch to 3 out of 5. So I think what's happening is that as they see with each passing run, the combination of that intensifying close low off the mid Atlantic coast, but also that incredibly huge, gigantic high pressure ridge, which is centered or is strongest over eastern Canada. And as they see with each passing computer model run, that is continuing to expand slowly but surely like a balloon. I think that they're getting more and more confidence level in projecting out to 2 weeks, as far as 2 weeks in advance, that this is a pattern that's not going to be breaking down anytime soon, and that for places, especially again in the east, it's going to be turning progressively drier and also progressively warmer. And so, yeah, watch next week for temperatures that across the Midwest, the Great Lakes, and upstate New York and portions of central and northern New England warm, well into the 80s,
Yeah,
perhaps.
not
Again,
impossible.
I think thanks to that building ridge of high pressure and that weird offshore closed low, which looks like it makes the decision that it's going to want to spend some time down in the Florida Gulf coastal region ultimately by
Yeah.
moving south and southwest.
So here's the Europeans' view of matters over the next few days, and of course we've got these showery rains moving through the northeast and mid-Atlantic. Not much going on in the southeast, by the way. There are some patchy precip there. We saw it on the radar tonight. We'll probably see it again tomorrow, where they have the severe weather risk in the Carolinas. And then you could also see the firing up of the new low and the severe weather risk that's going to be moving out of Oklahoma and then eventually into the Mississippi Valley on Thursday. And as you said, Thursday definitely the pick of the week. In spite of the fact that we do have a high building down from eastern Canada, the air is actually not that cold, so we should be able to move up into the 70s. It's the May sun. If there's sunshine, it's going to do it. And there's not really a big flow coming in from off the ocean on Thursday, so we don't have to really worry too much about that. But then you start to see the low Friday afternoon in central Illinois, rain moving in, and again that northern edge. Where is that northern edge going to be? Uh, it appears like it's going to be just into southern New England and going west northwestward from there up toward Buffalo. If you want to draw a line from say eastern Long Island to Buffalo, it doesn't look like that rain's going to make it up to Boston. By the way this looks, the gradient, I mean, it's not tight, but there's enough isobars there to make it breezy at least along the coast. And again, the rain on Saturday is there, and then on Sunday, the European is probably the one that model that has the slightly more pessimistic view. See, here's my worry for Sunday, Joe. You still got basically an easterly fetch that comes from well out into the Atlantic into the coast. I think it's going to be difficult for areas. Again, if you're in upstate New York, if you're in central and northern New England, you're probably going to be able to break out. But if you're in points south, the chances get lower and lower the further south you go, especially south of New York City, with regards to getting any kind of brightening of skies. The upside will be that probably, at least from the standpoint of steady rain, it should be mostly done before Sunday morning. And then next week, we still have this kind of easterly fetch, east northeast fetch on Monday into Tuesday. And here's where, again, I go back to what I said earlier, the rotation of that surface low later next week. Yeah, we have to watch, even though the low's going to be to the south, there's probably going to be some kind of inverted trough that's out in the ocean that swings back westward. It's sort of what the European is showing here toward the end of the week with a little bit of rain coming in around later Wednesday into Thursday. Uh, that's I think the main risk here is with what's going on is uh, if you get something, a little something that comes in from off the ocean that winds up screwing things up, uh, certainly cloud wise, maybe not so much rain wise, but certainly cloud wise when we get into Wednesday and Thursday. And judging from the GFS, it doesn't quite pick up on the same thing. It does here as the rain for Friday into Saturday, then a bit of leftover precip. It's a little faster in getting the rain in here. Actually brings it in later Thursday night, and then it gets it out of here a little faster by later Saturday afternoon. It's mostly done. So you want the GFS is probably going to give you the best chance of getting any kind of improvement here for Mother's Day. Much of the east, though, should be fine for once this low clears the coastline. Much of the east should be fine for Sunday, other than the immediate region we're talking about. And there you go for next week as it drifts the low kind of southwestward. Not much, not much precip being indicated by the GFS. It's got some kind of front there on Thursday night, Friday, coming into New England with a few showers clipping Long Island and southern New England. Who knows if that's real or not? Um, so, yeah, CPC I think is correct on the idea that it's going to be mostly dry after this weekend system for a while, but not. But I would just argue that it will not be picture perfect.
Well, also we were talking about, oh well, maybe it'll rain, maybe it won't rain for Mother's Day or Mother's Day weekend. What is Mother's Day? Mother's Day is when you uh, take your wife or take your mom out to a restaurant and enjoy a nice, quiet afternoon of dining, hopefully indoors. Although I know some people like to have maybe their first barbecue of the season if it's nice enough outside on Mother's Day weekend as well. But that does not look like it will be the case, at least especially on Saturday. And all I could say is just cross your fingers for Sunday, and we'll see how it all pans out.
We've got the chairman hitting super chat tonight as he's been pulled back in at the COVID hospital job of his. So please be safe, Mr. Scott, uh, as he quotes
He asked what
as he quotes
he said.
Godfather.
Once I thought I was. He said I thought I was out, and they pulled me back in. And of course, that's what Godfather
God
number 2, right?
number three. Number
Number
three.
3.
Yes.
I thought it was number 2.
No.
All
It's
right.
number
Well,
three.
2 or 3, whatever.
And also Birder
And
Lady.
Birder Lady, yes.
Birder Lady hitting.
Thank you, Birder Lady.
Hitting super chat tonight. Thank you so
Which
much.
reminds me, I've got to ask Renata. Um, we have this big canister where we put sugar in, but the sugar that she has, I don't know, I think it's some kind of a natural or granulated type sugar. It's not the white sugar that most of us are accustomed to, and I need that white sugar because I want to put my feeders for the hummingbirds out this week. But I know I can't do it with the sugar that she's got in the canister now. So she's probably listening to me right now and saying, "Wow, oof, why is he mentioning that on the air for?" But yeah, I want that. I want. She says she has the regular sugar. I want it because I want to make the good stuff tomorrow for my hummies and put out the feeders and spend the next 3 months watching them flip and fly and go forward and backwards and do all their acrobatics around the feeders as they always do. Always a sad time when I have to take the feeders down, but here it is. It's now officially for me. It's spring, Joe, and I put the hummingbird feeders up, and we'll hopefully be doing that in the next day or two. I'm sure Birder Lady has a big smile on her face
Yes.
with that.
Leon Pobritsky reminded. I saw your comment, and I was just about to get to it. I'm going to put a link up and pin it to the chat board for those of you who are interested. So there were
Well,
thunderstorms.
speaking of those rumbles of thunder, I mean, take a look at this photo coming in from New York City. This was via the Earth Cam. Lightning apparently struck atop of the World Trade Center there during.
Just a second. I'm sorry. I just by pulling up the link, I didn't know there was a video, a video going on. But I'm going to put this link up here for Fox Weather. For those of you who in the New York, Long Island area, we were talking about last night over the fact that there were some thunderstorms that rolled in during the morning hours, and everybody's takeaway from it was the fact that the thunder was extremely loud. Okay, and which is unusual. But as it turns out, Joe, there was apparently, and I thought that was kind of interesting, that there was an inversion in the atmosphere that essentially trapped the sound of the thunder from expanding out in distance. It trapped it and forced the sound to go down. toward the ground. So that article, I think, explains it. And if it doesn't, I'm sure there's somewhere on their website that it is there. So um, that sums up. I saw Jason Schaefer. I saw you posted up that link on Facebook, but if I copy and paste the link off Facebook, the URL is 1,000,000 miles long. So this is the shorter
Right.
version. So Jason put it up. That's where I saw it, and this explains it to everybody. But again, finally, very fascinating. And I think Leon has also hit super chat tonight. Thank you very much, Leon. Most appreciated as always for uh, for supporting us. Most again, thank you. So anyhow, there's not much else that we could talk about right now. That's the one thing about the spring. We're sort of in this hole. The winter is done. Hurricane season hasn't started yet, so we're just kind of in this place where, uh, you know, you talk about what you got, and then after that, there isn't too much else really to talk about. We've got today's the 3rd of May, so in 12 days, the first tropical weather outlooks will come out. So let's see if we wind up seeing a tropical storm at some point in the month of May. If that upper low hangs around long enough, who knows? You know?
Yeah. Well, speaking of tropical systems, we do have a singular Briller Jeopardy question tonight for you, Joe. Uh, According to the chairman, Ida was retired officially last week from the list of
Yes.
tropical storm names. This now makes the letter I the most retired letter with 13 storms. Can you name at least 6 other storms on that list, that retired list, that begins with the letter I?
All right, so I'm gonna Isaias from last year or 2 years ago now, whenever it was, is one. I'm gonna
Well, wait
say
a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm looking here. Unless the chairman missed Itzia, he doesn't have it on this list.
I thought that was retired.
I thought it was too, but it's not on. It's not on
All
the
right,
list that he gave
so
me here.
I'm gonna say Isabel, Irene, uh, hmm. I'm trying to think back now. This is the sort of question that maybe 10 years ago I could have answered, very quickly, but
Right.
that ain't the case now. Uh, Ivan, Ivan, are you watching the show, Ivan?
Yeah.
Ivan. Um, I'm trying to think, Joe. Isabel, Ivan, Irene,
I'll give you a hint. I'll give you a hint. From
Isaias.
2008. This one was retired in 2008, and it's the short name or the abbreviated name of a famous U.S. president.
Oh God. Well, that didn't really help very much.
Which starts with the letter I. I mean, the name of the president doesn't start with I, but everybody called him a short 3-letter name that starts with I.
Well, we know it's not Ida, so um, hmm, a short 3-letter name?
Well, how
Ike,
about this?
Ike, Ike, Ike,
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
um,
There you go.
Ike. Um, let's see. I. For some reason, Isidore is popping into my head. I don't know if that's the case though.
Well, it is.
Oh,
That's
okay.
one of the. That's yes.
So what do I got? 4 or 5? Ike, Isidore, Isaias, Ida, Irene, Isabel.
Well, you got the 6.
Okay.
That was what you had to get. You had to get 6 others that begin with I.
There's 6
The
more.
full list includes. Well, the full list includes Ione,
Ione,
1955.
55. Yes.
Inez, 1966.
Inez. Yes.
Iris,
Iris.
Isidore,
Isidore.
Isabel, Ivan, one of my favorite directors, right? Ike. Yeah, well, let's see what's going on. Igor, open up the bunk. Open the trunk up, Igor.
Oh, God.
Igor. That was 2010.
Yeah, you're channeling Peter Lorre
Irene,
now.
I'm trying to, did you get the information? Maybe I should try to get a dog's wishbone instead. Irene, Ingrid, Irma. I have an Aunt Irma, by the way,
Irma,
in
that's right. Of
2017.
course, 2017.
Yeah. Iota. I think
Right.
that was one of the Greek name
Right, they
letters.
upgraded that to a Category 4 in one of their reanalyses that they did. And Tyler Ferengia, I hope I pronounced that correctly, Tyler, says I can confirm that Isaias was not retired and that in fact it was the third costliest hurricane not to be retired.
Huh.
Which, oh, that's
It
interesting.
should have been retired. Craig Carberg says, yes, should have been retired. I hate when it got mispronounced 2 years ago. Yeah, it gave us a dickens of a time 2 years ago. I said, how do you pronounce it? Well, Isaiah's? It's so.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's amazing that they didn't retire that storm. But that means she's gonna in 4 years she's coming around again, Joe.
That's a he name, I believe. That's
It's a he or a she?
It's a he.
It's a he is? I
Yes,
don't
it's
know.
a he.
All right.
Look at the name
Okay.
list. It's sandwiched between two female names. So it's a
And
he.
Ida, that was the last name that was the last name on the list here.
Yes.
Was Ida. So.
All right. So here we are at the time of 8:47 Eastern. So the next two nights will be at 7:30, and Mrs. Rayo will be joining as Mr. Rayo is going to be hobnobbing at several libraries across the globe. And
Actually, tomorrow night I'm going to be giving a talk for the Astronomical Society of the Palm Beaches, and I'm going to find this most interesting, Joe, because one of the members down in Palm Beach, Florida, of this astronomical club is a name that is familiar to many of our weather navens, and I have not had any contact direct. Well, I occasionally I'll correspond with him via email. I haven't actually seen him in almost 30 years. Bob Harris,
yes,
who now is living in retirement down in Florida, and he let me know he's going to be at my talk tomorrow night, my virtual talk, and then on Thursday night I have two talks. I have one in Haverstraw at 6:30, and then I have another one at 8 o'clock. I forgot where that one is, but so rather than ask you to, do our Joe and Joe's at like 9 or 9:30, which is much too late, we will have Mrs. Rayo sitting in for me, who, by the way, is indeed a degreed meteorologist. She got her degree from Oneonta SUNY University, and she is well versed. And we met working at a private weather company back in the 1980s. So he will be pinch hitting for me both tomorrow night and on Thursday night. And I guess we have off on Friday. And then we'll come back on. You and I will be back together again next Sunday
on
Mother's Day, unless you want to just say to hell with that because it's
no,
Mother's Day. And
I've got no plans at the moment. So um, with regards to traveling, so I'm going to be around. So if you're going to be around, we can do it at our regular time.
Mr. Lapointe says Renata taking over for Joe. She winds up being good. Then they'll change the name of the show to Chiaffi and Renata.
Yeah, yeah. Joe and Joanne.
Yeah.
See, then there's a top billing question, which we don't have since we're both top billed. It's either
right.
Joe and Joe, so it works. Okay. Anyway,
You remember what?
Oh, go ahead.
You remember they had three writers for I Love Lucy. I think two of them were named Bob, and the third was Madeline Carroll, and I think the in-house nickname was two Bobs and a Babe.
Yes.
Who did the writing on I Love Lucy or whatever. So All right. So I will see you on. I will talk to you on Sunday, and the lovely Mrs. Rhea will be here tomorrow and on Thursday.
Okay, we're looking forward to it, and everybody, thanks for being here tonight. The loyal viewers here, because this time of year when the weather's like this, we usually just have a handful, so it's nice to see the regular folks joining on a nightly basis. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to do that. Excuse me, and thank you for the super chat supports that were hit tonight. I think we got them all. Leon, the chairman, and Birder Lady, all hitting super chat. So thank you. So have a great night. All right, so Tom Contino has one question, then we'll say goodnight for sure. He says, Joe Rayo, what are NEAP deep tides?
What are what?
Neap tides.
Oh, neap tide. Well, as Joe was mentioning before, when we have the moon at new or full phase, then there's an alignment between the sun, the earth, and the moon. When we're at new phase, it's sun, moon, earth, and when it's at full phase, it's sun, earth, moon. But when they're in that alignment, straight up, like on a checkerboard, the pull of both the moon and the sun are at their greatest, and have they tug on the tides and make for what we call astronomically higher than normal tides or spring tides. Has nothing to do with the seasons. Spring comes from the German gespringen, which means that the tides at this phase of the moon, new or full, seem to spring up. Neap tides are kind of like a better way to describe them, neutral tides. The moon is at a 90-degree angle relative to the earth and the sun. And so it's still pulling on the tides, but the tide pull is not as strong. It's significantly lessened as opposed to when it's aligned with the sun. And so we call those tides neap tides. And so with this offshore system coming up and the moon approaching first quarter phase, that means that the tides will be at the neap phase. And so they will not be quite as high as if they were, again, aligned at full and new phase with the sun and are much higher.
And there you
And there
have
you
it in
go.
a nutshell. All right, folks, have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow night at 7:30. Nighty night, everybody.
Night.